Welcome to episode 2, The Law, for the Building Green 2022 the Digital Conference. Building Green is the flagship campaign of the Philippine Green Building Council's events and consists of year-round activities that encourage participation in the green building advocacy. I am Mario Suelto, the technical coordinator for the PHILGBC, and I will be today's facilitator. Thank you to the PhilGBC Board of Trustees for initiating this event. Our Chair of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer of Arthland Corporation. Our Vice Chair, Mr. Wena Ramos, Principal of Ecotectonica. Our Secretary, Ms. Elizabeth Mendoza, Managing Director of Monocrete Construction Philippines. Our Treasurer, Mr. Ramon Rufino, CEO of NEO, and the members of the board, Ms. Catherine Ilagan, President and COO of Philinvest Alapang, Mr. Felino Palafox Jr., Principal of Palafox Associates, Mr. Hener Liwanag, Junior Partner, GFN Partners Architects, Mr. Luis Chamon, Country Manager, Sangoban Philippines, Ms. Audrey Belpo, Managing Director, World Home Depot Corporation, Mr. Francisco Arellano, Consultant, Maynilad Water Services, and Mr. Gabriel Maria Angelo Cascante. I would also like to acknowledge the Chief Executive Officer of the PhilGBC, Mr. Christopher De La Cruz, the Executive Director, Ms. Maria Ana Tunggol, and the PhilGBC National Secretariat for organizing this conference. We would like to thank our members and sustaining corporate sponsors that support the programs of the PhilGBC and for making our activities possible. Our diamond sustaining sponsor, Neo Property Management. Our gold sustaining sponsor, Wall Vision Corporation, and our silver sustaining sponsors, Arthland Corporation, Daikin Air Conditioning Philippines, Ecotectonica, Firefly Electric and Lighting, GFN Partners Architects, Gigatech, KPI Elevators, Monocrete Construction Philippines, Sangoban Philippines, SMCC Philippines, Surface Repair Solutions, and World Home Depot. We would also like to thank our BG2022 strategic partners for their support in making this Building Green Conference 2022 possible. Our Diamond Sustaining Sponsor and National Secretariat Sponsor, Neo Property Management. Our Gold Sustaining Sponsor, Wall Vision Corporation. Our BG2022 Gold Strategic Partners, Boitis Infra Capital Economic Estates, City Home Builders and Development. Our BG 2022 Silver Strategic Partners, First Balfour, Daikin Air Conditioning Philippines, and Wall Vision Corporation. Our BG 2022 Bronze Strategic Partners, AGC Asia Pacific, Botanica Nature Residences, Philinvest City, Datum Incorporated, FPD Asia Property Services, and Monocrete Construction Philippines. So before we continue, please be reminded of the following event guidelines. This webinar will be recorded by the PhilGBC National Secretariat for documentation purposes. We encourage your active participation during the event. You may ask your questions using the question box in the GoToWebinar panel. Questions that you will raise will be addressed during the discussion period after all presentations. Upon request, an electronic certificate of attendance will be issued by the PhilGBC National Secretariat to your registered email address, provided that you are present for more than 50% of the allotted time for each session. You have completed the feedback survey, which will be sent to your registered email address after the event, and you've requested a copy of your certificate through events@philgbc.org. This episode on the law features our government's policies, programs, and campaigns for greener, healthier, and safe buildings. For this episode, we will learn about the Senate bill on the Bicycle Act of 2022 from Senator Mark Villar, a legislation that aims to contribute to providing bicycles equal and safe access to the road and promote its co-benefits for health and as a sustainable transportation option. On behalf of OIC Director Reynaldo Faustino of the Department of Public Works and Highways, Bureau of Research and Standards, or BRS, Engineer Chodoro VR Jr. will be presenting updates from the department. Engineer VR is the chief of the Research and Development Division under the Bureau since 1985. And with his 35 years of experience in service and technical knowledge in research and standards development, Engineer VR has contributed to the Bureau's adoption of new and advanced technologies for materials testing to ensure the quality in the construction of public works. Director Faustino and Engineer VR spearheads the DPWH Technical Journal and the DPWH Research Symposium, the official publication and symposia of the DPWH. Representing the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, we have Mr. Kelvin Anthony Balakit, the Ecosystems Management Specialist of the DNR Biodiversity Management Bureau, who will be presenting the updates on the handbook on blue-green infrastructure for biodiversity. Mr. Balakit has been with the DNR BMB since 2016 under the Caves, Wetlands, and Other Ecosystems Division. He is responsible in assisting in the planning, budgeting, and monitoring of targets and activities of the division, and in providing support for the formulation and recommendations for policies, strategies, plans, and review of reports related to the urban biodiversity, mining, and biodiversity. He also serves as the resource person on rapid assessment of wetland ecosystem services of the division. He is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Biology from the University of Santo Tomas. Lastly, we have Director Patrick Aquino, who will be sharing updates on the actions of the Department of Energy for energy efficiency and conservation. Director Aquino is a director of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau under the Philippine Department of Energy. A career executive service officer rank 3, he rose from the ranks and has served in various capacities in the DOE from the Office of the Secretary, Information Technology Management Services, and Energy Policy and Planning Bureau. Recognizing the need for sustainable energy consumption, Director Aquino, with the support of the DOE, is aggressively implementing the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act and the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act. We have the privilege of having these gentlemen with us this episode for their presentations and for a brief discussion during the open forum before we close the episode with the remarks from Mr. Gabriel Cascante, a member of the Board of Trustees of the PHILGBC. So to formally introduce our first speaker, we have the Executive Director of the PHILGBC, Ms. Maria Ana Tungol.
Thank you, Mario. Senator Mark Villar served as the Secretary of the Department of Public Works and Highways for 5 strong years under the Duterte administration. As the head of DPWH, Senator Mark was able to institute numerous changes which led to the timely completion, rehabilitation, and improvement of quality infrastructure all over the Philippines. He played a prominent role in realizing the golden age of infrastructure through the Build, Build, Build program, which generated over 6 million jobs from 2016 to 2021. He has led reforms in policies and strategies in the DPWH, one of which is the addressing of road right-of-ways issues, which is one of the main reasons for project delays. He issued numerous important department orders, which includes the blacklisting of contractors, the strict application of the procurement law in the conduct of post-qualification of bidders with delayed ongoing contracts, the electronic submission and receipt of bids for the procurement of civil works contracts, and the geotagging of DPWH civil works projects, among other issuances. He relentlessly pursued the completion of projects under the Luzon Spine Expressway Network Program, the Mindanao Logistics Network, the Tatag ng Infrastruktura para sa Kapayapaan at Seguridad Program, the Tourism Road Infrastructure Program, the Roads Leveraging Linkages for Industry and Trade Program, the Kalsada Tungo sa Paliparan, Riles at Daungan Program, the Agri-Infrastructure Support Program, and many other priority projects. Further, at the onset of the pandemic, he was instrumental in the building of 730 operational facilities with 27,302 bed capacities. Back in 2010, he was elected representative for the Lone District of Las Piñas and served as congressman until 2016 when he was appointed by President Duterte as DPWH Secretary. Prior to being a public servant, he served for 8 years as the general manager of Crown Asia Corporation. He finished his Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science, Philosophy, and Economics at the University of Pennsylvania and his master's degree in Business Administration at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. But if asked to name his greatest achievement in life, Senator Mark will tell you without a doubt that it is marrying the strong, bright, beautiful, and passionate former Undersecretary of the Department of Justice, Attorney Emily Aglipay Villar, and his beautiful, smart, and energetic daughter, Emma Therese Villar. Fellow Green Builders, let us all welcome the man of action, the hardworking and resilient Senator Mark Villar.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Before anything else, I would like to greet the Chief Executive Officer of the Philippine Green Building Council, Mr. Christopher De La Cruz. Thank you for inviting me to speak for today's event. Today, I'm going to give a presentation entitled Bicycle Act of 2022, Pedal to a Sustainable Infrastructure for Alternative Transport. The outline of this presentation is as follows. I will begin by providing an overview of the situation of bicycle transport in the country, to be followed by the existing government policies on bicycle transport. Next is the DPWH efforts on bike-friendly infrastructure. Then the proposed Bicycle Act 2022, which I authored. Finally, to close with the opportunities and ways forward for the future of bicycles as an alternative transport in the country. During the onset of the pandemic, commuting to work by cycling became a popular option. Amid the emerging bike culture among Filipinos, bicycles were considered as an alternative mode of transportation. However, concerns about road safety and bike lanes emerged. Bicycle riding not only promotes health and leisure, but also provides for an alternative solution to high fuel prices, increasing transport fares, traffic management, air and noise pollution, and high cost of motorized vehicles, including maintenance and parking fees. This slide will show you some articles and news clips that provide an overview of road crashes and bike accidents in the country. According to the data of the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, there were a growing number of cycling road accidents in 2021, with 2,397 road crashes involving bicycles in NCR. Recent news reported that a woman cyclist was a victim of hit and run in Cavite. Most roads currently do not have bikeways for cyclists, leading to the loss of lives due to road crashes. As an advocate of bicycle transport in the country and during my term as DPWH Secretary, we issued a policy prescribing the standard design of biking lanes along national highways in an effort to meet the needs and safe access of bicyclists and other road users. Through Department Order Number 88 Series of 2020, new national road and bridge construction or future expansion of projects shall incorporate a bicycle facility contingent on the prevailing road and traffic conditions, but will have no less than 2.44 meters of bicycle path width. Under the guidelines, all future road and bridge construction, as well as widening projects, shall incorporate a bicycle lane. Roads designed for pedestrian and cyclists are important. For me, they should be prioritized when we build transportation infrastructures because they are the most vulnerable road users. In my then capacity as DPWH Secretary, bike lane projects became one of my priorities. The Laguna Lake Highway Project, also known as the Circumferential Road 6, located along the areas surrounding the Laguna de Bay, covers the construction and widening of bridges, improvement and widening of existing asphalt road, a bike lane, and a pedestrian sidewalk. We have the 9.6 kilometer Pulilan Baliwag Diversion Road and 5.14 kilometers Ciudad de Victoria Interchange and Overpass Bridge and Bypass Project in Bulacan, which includes a designated lane for bike riders. Worth highlighting bike lane projects are the 29-kilometer bike lanes in Metro Cebu and 54.7-kilometer bike lanes in Metro Davao. These were launched recently in Central Visayas and Southern Mindanao that will be able to improve safety and promote fair division of road spaces and active transportation. The Metro Manila bike lane networks are dedicated lanes on roads with wide space constructed with the use of concrete delineators, rubber bollards, steel fences, and solar studs to encourage bicycle usage in going to the workplace. These bike lane networks improve safety and promote fair division of road space and active transportation. Together with the Department of Transportation, the idea for the Metropolitan Bike Lanes Network connected cities, municipalities, as well as provinces was conceived to provide a safe and accessible space for cyclists. In the opening of the 19th Congress, I filed Senate Bill number 218, or an act providing for the bicycle rights creation of local bikeways office, LBO, establishing infrastructure in relation thereto and for other purposes. The bill seeks to provide a framework for a bicycle law on a national level so that Filipino commuters may find a cheaper alternative to get to their destination while saving the environment from harmful emissions. I am certain that the measure may boost bicycle use as an alternative transportation, and it will provide additional safety interventions to ensure the protection of cyclists from danger. This bill features the establishment of a local bikeway office that will manage the construction and maintenance of a bikeway network, including the identification of a bikeway roadmap. It also indicates the creation of bikeways and similar infrastructure of safe and strategic parking facilities, road signages, and maps in designated areas of the network. Further, the proposed bill enumerates the rights, responsibilities, and obligations of cyclists, such as wearing of helmet at all times, adherence to the appropriate speed, and obedience to all traffic rules, among others. Finally, it identifies the government agencies that will plan and construct an interconnecting bicycle lane network to link cities and municipalities and pursue similar approaches towards a sustainable and low carbon emission transport system. There are many lessons that we learned with the best practices of bike lanes in the country. The following are the ways forward and our call to action which are worth adapting. First, we see biking as one of the primary modes of transportation of our people. More than the new normal mode of transport, the use of bicycles instills health consciousness and protects the environment. Second, we need to support the creation of safe pathways for cyclists and pedestrians to make our streets safer and more accessible. This will make transportation in the country more inclusive and sustainable. Transportation, where our people, students, and employees can reach their schools and destinations safely. Third, through the help of concerned advocacy groups, civil society organizations, cyclists, private sector, and other stakeholders, let's help in advocating the passage of the Bicycle Act and other related legislations. This is to ensure that bike programs and bike-friendly communities nationwide are attained. Finally, with our partnership and collaboration with relevant government agencies, we need to ensure that our agencies are compliant to the policy standards, thus proper infrastructure to make biking and the country's roads safe for all. Now more than ever, as the country sees the value of the bike lanes and infrastructures, we need to take this opportunity to push for our legislative agenda. We also need to deliver our commitment to promote green building, sustainable communities, resilient and safe infrastructures, promoting alternative transport, health, and well-being. We see our country with a green environment where people can live, work, and play. Indeed, this is our destination in pursuit of sustainable development. Once again, this is Senator Mark Villar. Together, let's build a healthier, safer, and sustainable future for everyone. Mabuhay po tayong lahat. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Senator Villar, and we look forward to more forward-thinking legislations that promote the sustainability and the development of healthier and safer spaces in our buildings, districts, and cities. For our next presentation, we have Engineer Chodoro VR Jr. to provide updates from the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Good morning to all participants for the second episode of the 2022 Building Green Conference, The Law. It is my genuine honor to speak on behalf of Director Reynaldo P. Faustino, the officer in charge director of the DPWH Bureau of Research and Standards. Although he cannot attend today due to a conflict in schedule, he still wishes to express his gratitude and support on today's event. The Bureau of Research Standards under the Department of Public Works and Highways is the research arm and materials testing hub of the department. In summary, the functions of the BRS includes research and development, materials testing, standards and specifications formulations, and technical services. For the intention of discussion on policy making and implementation, the BRS specifically is tasked for the formulation and recommendation of guidelines, standards, criteria, and systems of new technologies for the construction, rehabilitations, maintenance, and improvement of all public works and highways. The Department of Public Works and Highways have issued an order on the procedures for new product evaluations and accreditations. This department order has been formulated to prescribe procedures, guidelines, and requirements for research and or evaluation of new or innovative products and technologies prior to permitting their use in DPWH infrastructure projects through the Bureau of Research and Standards. New product and technology evaluation refers to the characteristics and performance assessment of an established product technology initiated by a private entities that is already being used locally and or globally in infrastructure projects but not yet covered by existing DPWH standards specifications. Together with product technology accreditations, the BRS conducts in-house researches and collaborative researches. In-house researches refers to the conduct of basic and applied research initiated by DPWH engineers, while collaborative researches refers to partnership or collaboration with other research institutions such as the academe and other government agencies. To fully evaluate new products, technologies, and to test hypotheses of all researches, whether in-house or collaborative, 5 stages must be followed as indicated in the Department Order 189, Series of 2002. Number 1, evaluation of product technology characteristics. This step basically determines whether the presented product or research addresses DPW's needs or if it's already within the existing specifications in the DPWH Blue Book. Number 2, applications and test methods. This involves theoretical and laboratory evaluations undertaken at the BRS and witnessed by concerned parties. Number 3, conduct of small-scale pilot trials. This step is implemented to test product technology research performance under actual local conditions, such as weather and traffic. Should the outcome of the pilot trials be satisfactory, the next step is the issuance of conditional approval to use the product in the PHILGBC projects. This certificate shall be valid for 5 years and shall include the product's applications and specifications as well as the laboratory and field test requirements for accepting the product when used in DPWH projects. And after the issuance of this conditional approval certificate, conduct of large-scale trials shall be recommended to verify further the performance of the product. Should the last pilot trials exhibit satisfactory performance, a certificate of accreditation shall be issued. The end goal of all these stages is to formulate generic specifications on the use of new construction materials and technology that can be adopted by the department. To better understand it, let me present 2 of the sustainable researches successfully conducted by this bureau or the BRS. First, we have the warm mix technology, a research conducted by the BRS together with CCT Chemicals Incorporated from 2017. Warm mix asphalt is a generic term for various products and technologies that are incorporated into plant-produced hot mix asphalt to reduce the plant mixing, roadway paving, and compaction temperatures while maintaining workability. These technologies have the potential to reduce the application temperature of hot mix asphalt without compromising the strength, durability, and performance characteristic of asphalt pavement in the Philippines. According to German Asphalt Paving Association 2009, there are several benefits when using warm mix asphalts. Primarily, bitumen releases less fumes and aerosols during hot mix processing. Thus, a rough estimate of 10-degree temperature decrease leads to a 50% emission reduction. Secondly, a temperature reduction of 30 degrees yields savings of 9 kilowatt hour of energy per ton of asphalt mix produced. This corresponds to 0.9 liters of heating oil per ton of asphalt mix. Consequently, energy savings and carbon dioxide emission are evident. After the laboratory evaluation on Advera, an additive to produce warm mix asphalt, the BRS proceeded with the construction of pilot trials. Since it has exhibited satisfactory performance, a certificate of conditional approval was issued to the supplier, CCT Chemicals Incorporated, thus permitting the use of Advera to DPWH infrastructure projects. Together with the certificate, the BRS created the specifications on the dosage of this additive through Department Order Number 29, Series of 2017. Another research conducted by the BRS is the utilization of recycled asphalt pavement. For FHWA, the same materials used to build the original highway system can be reused to repair, reconstruct, and maintain them. Where appropriate, recycling of aggregates and other highway construction materials makes sound economic, environmental, and engineering sense. This research on recycled asphalt pavement was conducted in-house. Therefore, after the construction of pilot trials, there are no issuances of conditional approval certificate. Instead, the specifications through Department Order Number 71, Series of 2015 was created and implemented. This department order specifies that the use of reclaimed asphalt pavement as partial replacement to coarse aggregates in hot mix asphalt, maximum of 25% for item 310, what we call this bituminous plant mix surface course, grading D, and maximum 40% for item 310, grading B, as per Department Order 71 Series of 2015. Use of reclaimed asphalt pavement or wrapped in hot mix asphalt. In summary, through the implementation of Bureau of Research Standards of Department Order 189, Series of 2002, construction materials and technology undergoes theoretical and laboratory evaluation and several constructions of pilot trials to extensively test the product and technology under local conditions. Should it exhibit satisfactory performance, only then the policy-making bodies of the department will release the specification on how to use the newly introduced product technology that the implementing officers may follow. With that, I end my presentations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Engineer VR. For our next presentation, we will hear from Mr. Kelvin Anthony Balakit to provide an overview of the Urban Biodiversity Program of the DNR-EMP. Mr. Balakit?
So, hello, thank you for inviting the DNR in this event, and I am honored to be representing the department in sharing our mandates and initiatives. Good morning to all of our participants and viewers for today. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the BMP's initiatives for a more greener and biodiversity-friendly Philippines. So to start things off, I'll be providing you a quick background of our bureau. So the BBIG is one of the staff bureaus of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and is mandated to protect and manage the country's biological diversity. So what is biodiversity? It is the variability among the living organisms from all sources, including, among other things, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part of. This also includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems. We have three major programs under the BMP. And the Urban Biodiversity Program, which I'll be discussing today, is under the Protected Area and Ecosystems Management and Protection. You may know that the Philippines is considered one of the mega diverse countries in the country. And together with the other mega diverse countries, we host about 70 to 80% of the world's biological wealth and resources. Following that, what if we are a mega diverse country? What do we get from that? So basically, uh, we get these so-called ecosystem services. Biodiversity is one of the building blocks of an ecosystem, and an ecosystem provides these ecosystem services. And being a mega diverse country means that we get more benefits from ecosystem services. Next slide, please. So not only are we considered as a mega diverse country, but we are also one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world, meaning we have the most number of threatened species. Why do we have so many threatened species as presented in the slide? Next slide, please. So it's because of these factors. So we have invasive alien species, pollution, overexploitation, climate change, and habitat loss, which is one of the effects of urbanization. Next slide, please. So the Urban Biodiversity Program is a relatively new era of investigation given the urbanization trends. The Urban Biodiversity Program is a national program that provides for a more strategic framework for assessing the status of biodiversity in the urban areas. It aims to comprehensively and sustainably manage and reduce the threats to biodiversity in urban areas in order to maintain the ecosystem services that we benefit from for present and future generations. Next, please. So what is urban biodiversity? It's basically the variety of richness of living organisms, including genetic variation and habitat diversity found in and on edge of human settlements. That is the keywords. They are organisms, species, and habitats that have adapted and serve and are surviving in densely populated and built up environments. Next, please. So what are the benefits of urban biodiversity? As I mentioned earlier, biodiversity provides ecosystem services, and it's the same for urban biodiversity. It provides a wide array of social, health, economic, and environmental benefits to individuals as well as to the community. The ecosystem services that urban biodiversity provides to the local area are innumerable and are often undervalued. As an example, urban biodiversity contribute in the aesthetics of a city, which can lead to increased tourism in the area. Beyond aesthetics, ecosystems regulate the supply of quality in water, air, and soil, as well as moderating ambient temperatures, which reduce the so-called urban heat island effect. Others include, of course, if we have vegetation, it replenishes oxygen, sequesters carbon, and absorbs solar radiation. Thus, we have cleaner air and more cooling effect within our cities. Parks and natural areas provide recreation and educational opportunities for residents to contribute towards the livability of a city. Next, please. So it is a common misconception that cities do not have biodiversity, when in fact, rich biodiversity can exist in cities. However, some cities in the country have protected areas within them. In Quezon City alone, we have the Ninoy Aquino Parks and Wildlife Center and other green spaces that hosts wildlife, flora, and fauna. Next, please. So in this slide, it just shows that the interconnectedness of the different ecosystems and that cities are part of that system. And what we do in the city can affect or contribute to the overall health of that system. Next, please. So in in a global perspective, ah, I'm sorry. So of the 146 cities in the country, we have 71 protected areas within them. As I've stated earlier, some of our cities here in the country have protected areas in them. Next, please. So urbanization and biodiversity trends. Based on this figure, by 2030, we expect that urban population will double in number, which in turn triples the number of urban areas. This means more resources are needed to expand urban areas and that urban areas will eventually encroach the natural areas, leading to habitat loss, which I mentioned earlier, and threats to biodiversity and natural resources. Next, please. In the national context, in the case of Metro Manila, rapid urban growth has been happening in the last 30 years, making it one of the most densest cities in the world. It can be attributed to lack of planning or current approaches to address urbanization. The World Health Organization stated that 9 square meters of open space per person is required, while meanwhile, in the Metro Manila data, we only have 5 square meters of open space per person. Thus, Metro Manila is becoming increasingly congested and disconnected with nature, and people are left with very little amount of green spaces and natural areas. As we all know, in the past 2 years, we have been subjected to quarantines, and being enclosed for a long period of time takes a toll on our mental health and well-being. As of now, we are more appreciative of the value of being outside and being with nature. Green spaces helps us relax and unwind, relieving stress and improving our overall health in the process. Next, please. So we go on to the our international framework for the Urban Biodiversity Program. Basically, the Urban Biodiversity Program is anchored to the goals and objectives of the various international committees and conventions, such as the Convention on Biological Diversity, the UN Sustainable Development, the ASEAN, and the New Urban Agenda. Next, please. For our national framework, currently, we have yet to publish a national policy on urban biodiversity. We are currently anchored to the Philippine Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, and also the Philippine Development Plan, which is the Ambition 2040. In the current PDP, one of the indicators for the subsector outcomes under the ecological integrity is the enhancement of green spaces in urban areas, which is also a priority area under the Philippine Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Next, please. So in this slide, it shows that the urban biodiversity is not only the responsibility of the DNR, since this is a multidisciplinary and multi-sectoral concern, uh, it needs everyone's contribution. So we aim to collaborate with other national government agencies such as the DILG, the local government units, the uh, NGOs, the private sector, and the academia. It is also important that we mainstream and incorporate the urban biodiversity program in the different plans, from the national down to the cities. Next, please. Here are some ongoing policy development and initiatives that the Bureau is currently conducting. We are currently developing the Urban Biodiversity Program and its implementation guidelines, or the Joint Administrative Order, together with DILG. We also in development of the Handbook on Blue and Green Infrastructure for Biodiversity, which I'll be discussing later on. We also do partnerships with the private sector in building a biodiversity-friendly urban development and enhancing blue and green space. Currently, we are in partnership with MPIC in developing a urban linear park in Quezon City. Lastly is the establishment of urban forest bathing in selected PAs and green parks. So just a quick backgrounder, urban forest bathing is a practice of lying or walking among the trees to enjoy the benefits they bring to our physical and mental well-being. Spending dedicated time in the company of trees has been proven to be good for our health. Trees are the Earth's original air cleansers, soaking up the city's pollution, helping to cool increasing urban temperatures, and pumping out fresh oxygen, which literally keeps us alive. So next, please. So moving on, we are going to zoom into the uh, mainstreaming biodiversity in the infrastructure sector. So in this case, we want to promote the so-called blue-green infrastructure approach. We firmly believe that BGI will be an effective approach in providing a sustainable natural solution to the urban and climatic challenges of our country. Next, please. In this slide, it shows some of the possible applications and benefits of BGI that will help our urban communities. Uh, it aids in urban drainage and stormwater management by capturing and cleaning stormwater surface runoff, improving the water quality, and ensuring ecological health of waterways. It also reduces the potential for flooding, since by maintaining our natural urban wetlands, it slows down and detains the stormwater, allowing it to percolate into the ground. By increasing our green spaces, we also help improve and increase the quality of wildlife habitats within our cities, and also provide us a so-called corridor in which wildlife can freely move in and out from the city and towards the natural areas outside of urban areas. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, BGI can also help provide physical and mental benefits to mitigate pollution and providing greener cities, which helps reduce stress, as I've discussed earlier. And also, it also provides job opportunities through tourism. Next, please. So the basis of the blue and green infrastructure initiatives is for our international indicators. We have the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 11 makes cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, and resilient. Next, please. We also have the CBI, which is a self-assessment tool that we are also adopting for cities to check the state of the biodiversity and to develop plans and programs to improve it. Currently, we have pilot sites in the 5 largest cities, which is the Caloocan City, Manila City, Quezon City, Cebu City, and Davao City. As you can see, some of the indicators of the CBI is to measure the state of green and blue spaces in the city, the biodiversity-related response to climate change, and policy and incentive for green infrastructure as nature-based solutions. Next, please. In this slide, it shows the policies of the DNR that are relevant in supporting the BGI approach, and we are currently working on how to integrate BGI in local plans, just like what we want to achieve with the Urban Biodiversity Program. Next, please. As for the national framework of the BGI, we are currently anchored in the PBSAP, same as with the Urban Biodiversity Program, since we have yet to publish the JAO. As an example, one of the indicators mentioned in the PBSAP is the revision of building regulations, designs, and standards and guidelines, which can be one of the points where BGI can be incorporated. Next, please. Here we could see some of the initiatives that we are currently have conducted in mainstreaming biodiversity in the infra sector. In November 2020, we have conducted a webinar series on the mainstreaming of biodiversity in the infrastructure sector. Following that, due to the results of that webinar, the BMB, with assistance from the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, contracted a consultant to develop the handbook on blue and green infrastructure for biodiversity. Next, please. So here we zoom in on the handbook on BGI for biodiversity. So this handbook serves as a reference that illustrates the different typologies and applications of planning principles in different scales ranging from the barangay level to the metropolitan level, presents planning principles that help in decision making, shows steps and case studies that are best practice examples of BGI implementation, and serves as a guide and aid in deciding what important information and policies are to be included pertinent to the locales of the adapters of the handbook. Next, please. Key contents of our handbook are the sample designs. As I mentioned earlier, we have here green over bridges, green streets. Next. And some designs for urban rivers, creeks, and canals, and for floodplains. Next, please. As stated earlier, so we also have the case study. This is one of the case studies presented in the handbook. So this is the Laguna Lake Development Authority building, which is envisioned to be the first green government building in the Philippines. So apart from this, we also have other case studies that can be used as a reference for our readers of the handbook to get inspiration from. Next, please. So another key feature of the handbook is explaining the steps towards the implementation of the BGI approach. So here, the handbook provides a strategy such as marketing and planning for BGI projects. And it demonstrates how BGI can be integrated into decision making. It also shows us ways on how to fund or finance the BGI projects and where can we get those funding. Next is the designs. So I have shown some of it in the previous slides. And of course, when we do our projects, we need to also think of how we would be maintaining them. So there is also a section for it in the handbook. So all of these features all lead towards to, next slide please. So in an inclusive, safe, healthier, livable, greener, diverse, resilient, and sustainable biodiversity. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you have learned something about the initiatives of the department, specifically for BMB, with regards to urban biodiversity and our goal in mainstreaming it to various sectors, especially in the infrastructure sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balakid. For our next presentation, we will have a presentation from Director Patrick Aquino on the updates from the Department of Energy.
We would like to commend the initiatives of the Philippine Green Building Council for organizing this important event. The institutionalizing of energy efficiency and conservation is to strengthen the efficient use of energy and grant incentives to energy efficiency and conservation projects. Good day. I'm Director Patrick T. Aquino of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau of the Department of Energy. I will be discussing the plans, programs, and updates on the implementation of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation EEC Act. Created by Republic Act No. 7638, the DOE is mandated to prepare, integrate, coordinate, supervise, and control all plans, programs, projects, and activities relative to energy exploration, development, utilization, distribution, and conservation. The Energy Utilization Management Bureau, or the EUMB, is one of the 6 bureaus of the Department of Energy, mandated to formulate policies, plans, and programs related to energy efficiency and conservation and alternative fuels and emerging energy technologies, and ensure effective implementation to enhance energy security through diversification of energy sources to address climate change. Overall, there are policy issuances made under the EEC Act: 1 Memorandum Circular, 3 Department Orders, 13 Department Circulars, 6 IAEECC resolutions, and 5 implementing guidelines that are in place. Under the EEC Act, energy-intensive sectors in the buildings under the commercial, industrial, and transport sectors are classified as designated establishments based on their annual energy consumption. The obligation of designated establishment includes integration of energy management systems. Certification is encouraged but not required. Designated establishments are obligated to engage the services of an Energy Conservation Officer, ECO, for Type 1 designated establishments with an annual energy consumption threshold of 500,000 kilowatt-hours to 4 million kilowatt-hours. Energy managers for Type 2 designated establishments with annual energy consumption threshold of more than 4 million kilowatt-hours. The conduct of energy audits once every 3 years are also required for designated establishments through the engagement of either a certified energy auditor and/or an accredited ESCO. During the compliance period of April 2021, designated establishments had a reported total 470 energy efficiency projects. Energy service companies or ESCOs are partners in compliance with the EEC Act, offering multi-technology services towards developing and designing energy efficiency projects, delivering, designing, and guaranteeing energy savings, and ensuring cost-effective and optimal energy performance. ESCOs can either be registered for those that meet the minimum requirements on the legal and technical capacity with certificate of validity for 3 years. Certified ESCO refers to an ESCO which, in addition to meeting the minimum requirements of a registered ESCO, likewise has proven performance or results-based project savings. The validity of the certificate of certified ESCO shall be for 5 years. ESCOs are obligated to submit annual reports, provide support for the coordination and monitoring for EUMB, subject themselves to independent verification, and provide other requirements that may be required to advance the EEC Act or the EEC IRR. EEC Act provides support for professionals engaged in energy management. First is the Energy Conservation Officer or CECO. CECO refers to a professional who demonstrates high levels of experience, competence, proficiency, and ethical fitness in energy management profession assigned to Type 1 designated establishments or those consuming 500,000 to 4 million kilowatt-hours of energy a year. For the certification of an ECO, the candidate shall comply with the prescribed training regulations. The candidate may access the training regulations and the submission guidelines in the DOE website. The certificate is valid for 3 years. The CECO must have at least 2 years continuous hands-on experience in the installation, operation, and maintenance of energy-consuming machines and equipment in facilities with energy consumption for Type 1 designated establishments. Second is the Certified Energy Manager or CEM, who is a graduate of a 4-year course and obtain a certification in energy management. CEM is responsible in planning, leading, managing, coordinating, monitoring, and evaluating the implementation of Type 2 designated establishments or those with more than 4 million kilowatt-hour per year of energy consumption. CEM must be a graduate of a 4-year course, preferably engineering, with at least 3 years of continuous hands-on experience in the installation, operation, and maintenance of energy-consuming machines and equipment in facilities with energy consumption for Type 2 designated establishments. For the certification of EM, the certificate shall comply with the training regulation. The candidate may see the full details through the DOE website, the submission guidelines, and the necessary forms. The certificate is valid for 3 years. The recognized training institutions are the only entities that are eligible to conduct the prescribed training regulations for CEM. Third is the certified energy auditor that can either be an individual or entity certified by the DOE with proven credibility and competence to conduct energy audit. An energy auditor must have at least 1 year of continuous experience on energy audits. Specific functions of CEM include implementation of the pre-audit phase through meeting, planning, and site survey, the audit phase through data collection analysis and providing the recommendations or post-audit phase, and lastly, prepare the energy audit report. Aside from certified energy auditors, firms, partnerships, corporations may conduct the energy audit as well. You may see the full details through the DOE website. With all of the energy practitioners, including EEC officers and EEC focal persons under the GEMP. The Interagency Energy Efficiency and Conservation Committee, or IAEECC, was created under Section 9 of the EEC Act. The IAEECC is composed of the Secretaries of the Department of Energy, Department of Budget and Management, Department of Finance, Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Transportation, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Public Works and Highways, and the National Economic and Development Authority. IAEECC was created to evaluate and approve government energy efficiency projects and provide strategic direction in the implementation of the Government Energy Management Program, or the GEMP. GEMP refers to the government-wide program to reduce the government's monthly electricity and fuel consumption through electricity efficiency and conservation in fuel use of government vehicles. Further, the DOE has IAEECC resolutions. Resolution number 1, 2020, directing all government agencies, including local government units, foreign service posts, to comply with the Government Energy Management Program, ordering the Department of Energy to conduct energy audits and spot checks and submit proposed improvements to the GEMP. Resolution number 2, 2021, directing all government agencies, including LGUs and foreign service posts, to use energy-efficient light-emitting diode LED lamps in government buildings and facilities as a requirement for compliance to the GEMP. Resolution number 3, directing all government entities, including LGUs and foreign service posts, to use inverter-type air conditioning units or similar equivalent technologies in government buildings and facilities as a requirement for the compliance to the Government Energy Management Program. Resolution number 4, enjoining the Council of Good Local Governance to consider, include, and adopt energy efficiency and conservation as one of the areas in the criteria per Section 7 of Republic Act 11292 or the Seal of Good Local Governance Act of 2019. Resolution number 5, directing all government entities, including LGUs and foreign service posts, to observe the approved GEMP guidelines. With the passage of the EEC Act, the electricity savings further increased to 213 million kilowatt hours in 2020, which is equivalent to 2.1 billion pesos. To ensure this, the DOE has recommended the establishment of the National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Office to improve compliance of local government units. The said office shall also oversee and monitor the implementation of their respective local energy efficiency and conservation plans, or LEECP. Resolution number 6, series of 2022, recommending to the Governance Commission for Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations, GCG, to consider, include, and adopt energy efficiency and conservation, EEC, as one of the criteria in the performance evaluation system for government-owned or controlled corporations, GOCCs, in the grant of performance-based incentives. This will encourage GOCCs to comply with EEC Act and the GEMP, as well as foster EEC as a way of life. Also, the DOE together with the GCG shall develop and formulate the EEC set of performance indicators to be included as one of the criteria for the GOCC's performance scorecard and/or other conditions and requirements for the grant of performance-based incentive to its officers and employees. This EEC set of performance indicators shall be approved by the IAEECC and shall be endorsed to the Office of the Chairman of the GCG for inclusion and adoption in the Performance Evaluation System for the GOCC sector. The Philippine Energy Labeling Program, PELP, is the National Energy Labeling Program for energy-consuming products based on energy performance. The PELP seeks to enhance energy security by promoting a healthy and competitive market for energy-efficient products. It encourages the shift of consumer behavior towards the use of energy-efficient products and technologies by regulating energy-consuming products or ECPs. The minimum energy performance for products or MEPP, which sets the minimum energy performance rating for energy-consuming products. Energy labels are markings issued by the DOE that will showcase the efficiency of the model. The energy label design features the star rating system for preference of comparing similar products. The star rating components to the energy efficiency rating. The energy label also displays the product details and estimated energy consumption upon use. A sample computation for electricity consumption is also included to enable the customer to compute the projected contribution of using the product in their household electricity consumption. The energy label also has a QR code which provides more details about the product. Since then, we have already approved a total of 57 companies and 1,727 product models registered. Furthermore, 1,430 of these product models have been issued with energy labels, while 226 were given certificates of exemption. The DOE is implementing policies, plans, and programs related to new and emerging technologies. The DOE is implementing a long-term alternative fuels program to enhance energy security and contribute to climate change mitigation. The Guidelines on Energy Conserving Design of Buildings 2020 edition, adopted under the DOE's Department Circular Number DC 2020-12-0026, the gamut of the minimum standards aim to reduce greenhouse gas emission and introduce electricity and cost savings for buildings is imposed on applicable buildings according to the Philippine Green Building Code. The aim can be delivered in the area of energy efficiency, water and wastewater management, material sustainability, solid waste management, site sustainability, and indoor environment quality. The Philippine Green Building Code, or the PHILGBC, shall apply together with these guidelines for buildings with a total gross floor area of 10,000 square meters or more. In case of conflict between the provisions of the PHILGBC and the guidelines, the most stringent requirement shall apply. Energy efficiency and conservation, or EEC, has become essential for all of us. The EEE Awards serves as a platform that aims to motivate all designated establishments, including all industries and government sectors, in implementing their energy management systems to enhance business development through energy efficiency. At the same time, it aims to recognize all the energy-related projects, which include renewable energy and other energy-efficient technologies, energy-efficient building designs, and best practices on energy efficiency and conservation. The EEE Awards recognizes all excellent efforts made by the 4 major categories, each of which is divided into several subcategories. Awards for energy management in industry, for outstanding individuals or organizations, for government organizations. Special awards. The first EEE Awards was held on December 17, 2021. Out of the 249 entries, 110 entries became the finalists after being rigorously evaluated by the awards selection and validation committees. There are 7 private entities and 8 government entities. One also received the Best Certified Energy Manager. In the Philippines, while we are still in the early stages of implementing energy efficiency and conservation, we recognize that to accelerate the needed investments, it should be incentivized. There are the simple and complex energy efficiency projects. Simple energy efficiency projects refers to those projects that involve new installation, upgrading, or retrofitting of a specific equipment or devices in the system. Complex energy efficiency projects refer to those projects that involve new installation, retrofitting, or upgrading of the system or a combination of systems. Energy efficiency projects are not just projects of the Department of Energy. It is our project to help not just the environment but also our future. Our intervention means that the next generation will continue to have sufficient and reliable supply of energy. The objective is to have a measurable reduction of energy intensity and consumption per year. To date, our implementation of the designated establishments has resulted in 15 billion pesos in investments for various energy efficiency projects equivalent to 55 megawatts of deferred capacity. We need you to support all the investments in energy efficiency. We aim to create an energy-efficient Philippines that cuts across economic sectors and imparts energy efficiency and conservation as a way of life for all Filipinos. When energy efficiency and conservation are practiced at the same time, an immediate reduction in electricity bill can be noticed, resulting to the reduction of emission for greenhouse gases. Before we end, I would like to invite you to be a part of our social media campaign in promoting energy efficiency and conservation. You may follow us at our Facebook account and stay tuned to our Enerhiyang Atin Stories video at our YouTube channel, where we showcase energy efficient practices and technologies implemented by most stakeholders. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Director Aquino. So may I invite our speakers to turn on your cameras and join us for the open forum for this episode. As mentioned earlier, you may send your questions for our speakers using the question box. Please include who you are addressing the questions to, so that we may properly address our speakers during this discussion. So Engineer VR, Mr. Balakit, and Director Aquino. And we also have with us Attorney Rafael Gregorio Santamaria, the Chief of Staff of Senator Villar, to join us with this discussion. So thank you once again to our speakers for sharing updates from your respective departments. We applaud the action of the different departments in terms of the promotion of sustainability in buildings as well as communities. We have a question here from our participants. Let me just start off with Engineer VR. With the release of the Philippine Green Building Code and with your efforts in promoting greener materials for construction in public works, has the DPWH seen an increase in the development of green buildings and the use of green materials in buildings, or is this just for exclusively for public works?
Yes, sir. At present, only for the materials considered as green materials, considered only for road concreting works, but not totally for buildings, multi-purpose building. But to date, our study focus only for the waste materials for to be utilized for soil stabilization, concreting works, asphalt and concrete works. Not for to date, not for buildings.
Thank you very much, Engineer VR. We actually have a question from Mr. Jansen Sembrano, who's interested in having their products or materials accredited by the DPWH for public works. How can product suppliers participate in the accreditation program?
Yes, the department's policy regarding this, we have what we call the product accreditation scheme. So the proponent or the supplier of this of their new product or their construction materials intended for DPWH infrastructure projects, they will prepare a letter of intent for their product to be accredited. So to further evaluate their products, we will provide them the department order 189. There they will see the process flow. So without further explaining but the procedure, so for them to study the procedural, the process flow. So for the first product to be accredited, so there will be a initial evaluation regarding if that product will totally address the DPWH needs regarding this their product, and upon evaluation that we may consider it, so there will be an initial laboratory evaluation. So that laboratory evaluation based on their specification to be provided by them, that is that's not being adopted by the department. We will ask them what specification they are referring to. So to date, as per the department requirements, we adopt the American standard, international standard. Not that this is what we call the ASTM, the ASTO specification. So after a laboratory evaluation, then there will be a pilot trials. Therefore, there will be a 1-year monitoring for that project to see to it that if it will be a unsatisfactory performance. So as the project shows satisfactory performance, then we will recommend it for the issuance of the certificate conditional approval for the for our secretary to approve it. Then in that product to be used in a certain structure for 5 years for them to supply with payment na sa kanilang product. Yes.
Thank you, Engineer VR. Hopefully, the contact information are available in the DPWH website. Is that correct, Engineer VR?
Yes, yes, yes. It's available in the DPWH website. They can see the process flow, the requirements, yes, all of that procedure. They will see in the DPWH website, BRS website.
Thank you, sir. For Mr. Balakit, we appreciate the roadmap and the actions for promoting urban diversity. In fact, in Verde, one of the requirements in the system under the Green Building Rating System is the promotion of vegetated open spaces and the use of native plants when developing green building projects and having their projects certified under the system. So how can building owners and developers and other project proponents um, uh, contribute to improving urban biodiversity? So we understand buildings contribute to the development of communities. So how can single buildings contribute to that objective for urban biodiversity?
So thank you for that. So basically, single buildings can contribute if, let's say, they put up green roofs or vertical green spaces. It contributes to the overall green space in our city. So hindi lang yung open space, not only the open spaces that we see like the parks and the blue areas such as the wetlands, but those that are built up in the building, such as what I've mentioned earlier, can contribute to the overall green spaces in the city. So basically, we encourage the private sectors or the other companies that will establish or will construct their buildings to incorporate a green infrastructure approach.
Sir, I noted earlier that in one of the provisions for the uh, blue-green infrastructure book, that you are promoting the use of native plant species. Is there a resource from the BNB that project proponents can use? Is this available online so that they can identify what are native plants for different parts of the Philippines?
Currently, for the handbook, we also have included a list of native and endemic plants that can be used for urban areas. So I just forgot to mention that it is one of the key features of the handbook is we have included a list.
Sir, we have a question from Cyrene Alcario. Is the handbook already available, or when will the handbook be available for the public?
So currently, we are on the final stages of the uh, development. So on a few more reviews, and then we shall be publishing it for the public to see. So our
Thank you.
timeline is, I think, within the year or by
Thank
fourth
you.
quarter.
We look forward to the release of the handbook so that we can also share it with the PhilGBC members and, of course, project proponents for green buildings who are using the different tools that we provide. For Senator Villar, for Attorney Santamaria, um, we appreciate the promotion of more sustainable and the use of alternative transportation through the proposed bill. What do you think is the role of the private sector, particularly the building and construction sector, in contributing to this adoption of the bill and to the promotion of more sustainable transportation in our country? Hi, sir. I think you're still muted. Can you?
There, is it working na? Ayun.
Yes.
Hi, morning. Ayun. Engineer VR, kumusta po? Ayan, from so the role of the private sector. I think ano tayo lahat dito eh. Hand in hand tayo lahat. I'm not very technical as sa bike lanes and all, more of the legislative side lang yung mga ano ko eh. But personally, ano tayo dito? When we have legislative hearings and committee hearings, a lot of technical personnel from the private sector are invited. So we really need their expertise, their help in building this in building infrastructure in relation to bike lanes and in relation to green buildings. So usually ang nakikitang role is more on sa local government and role on of the private sector, but
Yes.
hindi yan kaya as hindi kayang alone lang ang private sector, especially when back in the DPWH kami, especially for big ticket projects, PPP yung mode na ginagamit natin. So
Yes.
hand in hand, kailangan talaga ng help ng private sector dito. So it's not only the public, it's not only the government. Ano tayo dito? Tulungan tayo.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Sir, we have a question from Salvador Bajola asking if in the proposed bill, are there provisions for regulating bicycle users? Since he mentioned, we've seen crashes that are involving bicycles in the NCR. Are there a requirement or a provision for licensing of bicycles or in regulating bicycle users?
In the proposed bill, we have this local bikeways office. these offices will be established per local government, such as municipalities or cities. Magkakaroon rin tayo ng registration of these bicycle users dito sa local bikeways. However, we will subject this regulation to further discussion. Kung baka sakaling this bill will be discussed under the committee where it is going to be referred to. So yes, also bicycle rights and responsibilities are enumerated in this proposed bill. So we can expand that during the discussions in the committee, or we can deliberate together with our experts kung anong pwedeng idagdag, kung anong pwedeng tanggalin doon. So basically yes, kasama yung responsibilities and rights of our bicycle users there, as well as it's proposed na ma-regulate sila through registration.
Thank you very much, Attorney. We have a question here from Vincent Cotoron for DNR-EMB. With the onset of the impact of climate change in urban centers, what was the initiative of the BMB in the built environment to be ready for climate-induced catastrophes such as the heat island effect? So do you have examples of activities or strategies that you are promoting for the built environment? Mr. Balakit, I think you're still muted.
Currently, we are still developing strategies and plans for that issue, since the urban biodiversity program is in its infantile stages. So it's just a new way of us to get into the issues concerning urbanization. So but we are going to look into uh, that issues with regards to the extreme climatic effects. So one of the strategies I think that we can look into is, of course, the implementation of the blue and green infrastructure, since they can help in how we can alleviate such extreme climatic events, such as the urban heat island effect, and of course flooding. So those are one of the things that we are looking forward into looking at for possible solutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balaki. We have a question here or a comment from Mr. Marvin Tajeda. When we provide bike lanes, we need to provide bike storages and shower facilities in establishments and offices. Even just to share, under the BERDE Green Building Rating System, under our buildings tool, as well as our districts tool for communities and campuses, we require project owners to provide bike facilities, bike support facilities such as storage and shower areas for users. Attorney Santa Maria, does the current proposed bill include provisions for buildings to provide these support facilities to support bikers, encourage more users of bikes in the cities?
The bill only broadly proposes biking infrastructures such as bicycle parks in our various local governments. However, there's also another bill. It's in relation to Walkable and Bikeable Communities Act. I think this was authored by Senator Pia Cayetano. However, unfortunately, it didn't get passed last Congress. But this Congress, it was also passed. It was also filed again, and we actually had a hearing last week dito sa bill na to. And this bill, I remember it has a provision for end of trip facilities. So I guess that's in relation to bicycle parking slots, to probably lockers and facilities in relation to end of trip for our bikers. It also relates to the cohesiveness of the journey. So I think we can consolidate our bill with that of the walkable and bikeable communities act that Senator Pia filed last Congress and also filed this 19th Congress.
Yes, I think we, especially now with the release of the Verde Districts tool of the PhilGBC, we recognize that it really is a system for it to be properly used and to ensure the sustainability of not just the buildings, but the whole community, as well as the whole city, and even, of course, the Philippines in general.
Yeah.
We have a note here from Mr. Virgilio Carcido. Um, in terms of the use of the bike lanes that are providing uh, bollards, which I believe he mentioned he believes is not practical in existing roads, and that we have and provided with bike lanes that are not widened. How does the proposed bill, or how does the legislators look at providing better standards for the design of bike lanes and roads in general to promote biking in our urban areas?
Mm. I think that that will have to be coordinated with our technical agencies, especially with the DPWH, so we can adapt our circumstances in the Philippines and maybe strike a balance with those of the national with those of international standards. So kasi medyo maliit nga yung mga kalsada natin. And I think we just have to make baby steps in order to achieve the international standards. Unti-unti natin na ma-reach yan and ma-resolve. So we have to make use with what we have. And yun, with ano naman, especially with the DPWH, I'm from DPWH rin together with Senator Mark when he was still secretary there. So the hard work, alam namin ganong hardworking ang mga tao sa DPWH, and they really do their best, especially dun sa design and dyan sa Bureau of Research and Standards.
Yes, sir. Actually, we appreciated that the DPWH during the pandemic released issuances to provide standards for bike lanes for cities and communities. I'm not sure, Engineer VR, if you would like to share your insight on this, but we appreciated that we enhanced the access to bike lanes and the promotion of biking in cities during the pandemic, since, of course, we needed alternative transportation during that time. Engineer Vera, would you like to share your insight on this, or do you have any insight on the promotion of standards for better bike lanes in the Philippines?
Yes, yes. With regards with the bike lanes, so we part of the BRS participation for the approval of this the NCR, the DPW's NCR implementing office, they requested for the upon request from the DOTR regarding the utilization of the pavement studs, what we call this pavement stud, the lane markings instead of paint. They requested for immediate approval of this pavement stud along the national highway. So I remember that during that time, I think in the span of 1 to 2 months, already approved by our Secretary Villar regarding this pavement stud as a guideline, as a guide for the bikers to see that for the safety, especially at night. Since this pavement stud, a solar pavement stud, no need for the bike lift to use a beam lights. Yes, so once this solar pavement stud during at night, it will the bikers will totally guide them for their safety. That's I remember regarding this bike lane projects of the along national roads.
Thank you, Engineer VR. Actually, as a biker myself, going to and from work, I appreciated the action of the Department of Public Works in providing those standards and providing the action to. Before the pandemic, it was really hard sharing the road with vehicles and biking within Metro Manila. But now that more cities are providing bicycle lanes and they are required to provide bicycle lanes, it's easier for us to travel in the metro. We do have another question from Mr. Owen Misero for Engineer VR. Since the DPWH BRS are conducting materials tests or research for other materials for construction, are you also providing assistance for researchers in conducting tests for experimental materials? Is this something that the Bureau is providing? Is this a support that the Bureau is providing? Engineer VR?
This question is for me. Yes. Regarding with the assistance, the proponent, depending on their products that they're going to be to for us to accredit. So we, since our laboratory is, I think, 90% complete for the latest testing equipment. So with regards to other testing that we are not capable with, so we ask them for testing at the DOST, the Department of Science Technology. They have two laboratories with complete facilities, laboratory facilities.
Thank you very much, Engineer VR. We have a comment here from Mr. Marvin Tajeda. For Mr. Balakit, we appreciate the blue-green infrastructure, and we know that our waterways are experiencing unprecedented problems for wastewater pollution and solid waste. What do you think about this, and what are strategies that the DNR are currently doing to address these problems in terms of our waterways?
So apologies if I'm not so much familiar with the policies of the other bureaus, but I think in the EMB, which is the Environment Management Bureau, they have this, so they are mandated for the ecological waste, so management of ecological waste. So I I think they have these strategies on keeping the waste from the esteros or the canals in the in our urban areas from reaching the Manila Bay. I think they have that kind of strategies that are being implemented right now. So they are also, our LGUs are doing their best in cleaning our esteros. We have the so-called Adapt na Estero project that are currently being implemented by the EMB also. And I think we have already cleaned and rehabilitated some of the esteros in Manila. So I just don't have any pictures of it, but we can see if we can check the website. I think that the project is there, and we can see before and after photos of how we have rehabilitated some of the esteros in Manila and the canals there. So yeah, and I think in the future we can also incorporate the blue-green infrastructure strategies in our urban wetlands, so that we can establish more greener banks for in the sidelines of our esteros, so that we could use that as linear parks that our citizens can walk around and use as recreation areas. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balakit. So maybe for the final words from our speakers for this session, as I asked Attorney Santa Maria earlier, what can the private sector do to help in advancing the adoption of these principles for sustainability that you are promoting, or what can the members of the Philippine Green Building Council do to help in the adoption of these principles? Maybe I can start with Engineer VR. How can the private sector contribute to the adoption of better materials in construction. Engineer VR?
Yes, yes. In the private sector, I think, well, aside from I have said earlier regarding this availing the service of the UST, so we also accommodate in collaboration with the also in collaboration with the academe. So also we give assistance to graduating students from different universities to utilize our laboratory. So as of now, for this purpose, for this purpose of green building, we I think we are on the under categories of the sustainable materials. So what we have presented, what I had presented earlier, the warm mix asphalt and the recycled asphalt pavement. So instead of new materials to be used, so I think that's in a contribution from our department. So that's all, sir.
Thank you very much, Engineer VR. Mr. Balakit, how can the members of the PhilGBC and the private sector in general contribute to the promotion of blue-green infrastructure?
So I guess we could start by supporting our programs and initiatives, and of course, we would, as mentioned by Engineer VRO, we want to have a collaboration, of course, with the private sector in developing our policies. So it's not as mentioned by Sir Rafael that this is not just the problem of the DNR or the DPWH. It is a multi-sectoral problem and are a concern that which all of us needs to work together in order to mitigate the effects of of urbanization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balakit. Attorney Santa Maria, any final words in terms of the adoption of the proposed bill? How can we support that adoption?
Mr. Mario, we can like this one, we're having a dialogue. This is very important. So we can have more dialogues with the private sector, and also as between the legislative branch of the government and the executive branches, they can also collaborate towards adopting blue and green infrastructure for their plans and designs. Maybe in the future, we can also file bills that can institutionalize or mandate the use of these materials para ano na siya, codified na siya. Uh, and we'll need the help, of course, of the NR, of DPWH, and other executive branches, executive agencies, so that we can tap their expertise in crafting more effective and more precise legislation that can really help on this. And yun nga, of course, we'll be calling on the private sector to share their insights, share their best practices, their expertise, and their knowledge in general, so that we can be guided kung anong okay.
Thank you very much, Attorney Santa Maria. And rest assured that the PhilGBC supports the action of national government in the promotion of sustainability and, of course, in the adoption of these programs that you've shared with us this morning. For our participants, we please rest assured that your questions for the DOE are properly noted, and we will be sharing them with Director Aquino and with the rest of the team of the DOE to address these questions, and we'll take note and provide them to the DOE representatives. So thank you once again for our speakers for participating in our discussions. Thank you to Senator Mark Villar and Attorney Santa Maria, from the DPWH, Engineer VR, from the DNR, Mr. Balakit, and from the DOE, Director Aquino. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
And thank you. And to our participants, thank you for participating in this discussion. And if you have further questions for our speakers, please contact the PhilGBC National Secretariat at BG2022 at philgbc.org so that we can coordinate with our speakers even after the event and continue this dialogue on these different programs. Thank you very much, Attorney Santamaria and Engineer VR.
Okay, Sir Mario. Our doors are always open sa is. So, ano lang kayo anytime.
Thank you, Attorney.
Yes or no?
Once again, thank you for joining us on episode 2. Thank you for joining us for episode 2, The Law. And this afternoon, we will be hosting episode 3, The Local Government Forum, to focus on the strategic, effective, and appropriate solutions from local government units and their insight in addressing their unique sustainability challenges in their respective jurisdictions. Next week, we will be kicking off our celebration of the World Green Building Week with episode 4, The World, to share with you the global programs of the World Green Building Council and to hear from leaders from the different national GBCs from the World GBC Asia Pacific Regional Network on their green building programs in the region. So if you would like to register, please scan the QR codes for each of the episode on your screens or contact the PhilGBC National Secretariat through BG2022 at philgbc.org for more information. To officially close this episode, we have Mr. Gabriel Mariangelo Cascante, a member of the Board of Trustees of the PhilGBC. Mr. Cascante?
Yes, uh, good morning. Good morning, everybody. So, we would like to thank all participants of episode 2 of the Building Green Conference 2022 entitled The Law. This episode is part of the commitment of the PhilGBC in keeping our membership engaged with government to learn and ensure compliance with current and forthcoming regulations that benefit industry. We would like to thank our speakers for sharing their time and insights. For Senator Mark Villar, who talked about the Bicycle Act of 2022. We look forward for more legislation which promote healthier and safer environment. This is indeed a very welcome law to promote lesser dependence on fossil fuel. We also would like to thank Engineer Teodoro Villar Jr. of the Bureau of Research and Standards of the Department of Public Works and Highways, who discussed the standardization of specifications for construction materials for road networks, which are greener and have lesser negative impact to the environment. We also would like to thank Mr. Kelvin Anthony Balakit from the Biodiversity Management Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, who talked about urban biodiversity and the Blue and Green Infrastructures Initiative and how it will enhance our urban areas. And lastly, we would like to thank Director Patrick Aquino from the Energy Utilization and Management Bureau of the Department of Energy, who discussed the updates on the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, DOE's thrust and programs in reducing dependence on fossil fuel for power, and the recognition and awards being given out for energy efficient projects. We commend our government in their actions to ensure a sustainable built environment and in participating in the discussion with the members and partners of PhilGBC. We look forward to continued communication with your agencies as you develop new regulations, and we also look forward to the opportunity to comment as regulations are shaped. In closing, we would like to thank our BG 2022 sponsors and for your sustained support. We have Gold Strategic Partner, NEO, Aboitiz Infra Capital Economic Estates, City Homes Builders and Development Incorporated. For our Silver Strategic Partner, we have World Vision Corporation. we have Daikin Air Conditioning Philippines Incorporated, First Balfour Incorporated. For our branch strategic partners, we have Monocrete Construction Philippines Incorporated, Botanica Nature Residences, PhilInvest City, FPD Asia, AGC Asia Pacific, Daytime Incorporated. Join us in our upcoming episodes. Episode 3, the Local Government Forum at 1:30 later today. And episode 4, the World, which is going to be held on Monday at 9 a.m. For more information, please visit philgbc.org or contact the PhilGBC National Secretariat at BG2022 at philgbc.org. Once again, thank you to all for your participation in this morning's episode entitled The Law.